So in today's video, we're going to be going over how to properly position your grip placement for the barbell overhead press. So when setting up our grip for the barbell overhead press, the first thing we want to be aware of is where exactly on the bar we want our grip to be placed. For the majority of people, it's going to be with the index finger in line with the edge of the knurling. Now for some individuals, it might be slightly out wider than that, maybe a ½ inch or an inch at most, but we're going to be in that general vicinity on the bar. The reason why is because when we grab this bar, we want our forearms to be vertical, both from the front and from the back. We want them to be straight up and down. We don't want them to be angled out slightly. If you were to say use the outside rings here and walk up to the bar, as you can see, my forearms are not even close to vertical. This becomes an issue because it creates lever arms or moment arms. So generally speaking, the majority of individuals are going to find that index finger on the knurling edge will be the optimal grip placement for them. Some individuals with a ½ inch or an inch of that placement. And yes, there will be extenuating circumstances where people go much wider than that, but again, the simple way to determine for yourself is whether or not you can maintain vertical positioning of the forearm. So once we've got the location of our grip determined, the next thing we need to ensure is that when we actually grab the bar itself, that the bar is directly above the bones of the forearm. So the bar being directly over the bones of the forearm is something that's often overlooked when setting up for the overhead press. Generally, people's setup looks something along the lines of this, and they scoop the bar up and out of the rack. But if you pay attention to the bar placement, it's actually behind the bones of the forearms. It is rolling back into the palms of the hand and creating this position with the wrist. Not only does this create quite a bit of discomfort for most people, that we're doing extra work to press the weight up because the bar is not directly over top of the bones of the forearm. We've created another lever arm, and as I just mentioned with lever arms, we end up doing more work than is required to move the same amount of weight with no added benefit. So the question becomes, how do we set up to ensure that this bar is directly over the bones of the forearms every single time? And it's actually quite simple. So what we're going to do is we're basically going to line our index finger up with the bar, and we're going to make sure that we assume a pronated grip where our palms are facing down towards the ground. So almost right over top like this. And our thumbs are going to point down towards the floor below us. From this position, we're going to drive right into the bar itself and then wrap the fingers around. Now, from this position, as we walk forward to unrack the bar, it'll force the bar into position directly over our forearms while keeping the forearms in vertical alignment. As you can see, the wrist is positioned on about a 15-degree angle. It's not rolling back, the bar is not rolling back into the palm of the hand as it was when I just haphazardly grabbed it. This position is not only optimal in consideration that it's not creating a lever arm in the wrist area, which is going to force us to exert greater force to move the same amount of weight, but it's also beneficial because that position allows for maximal contraction of the flexors and extensor groups of the forearm, which means that we're going to be in a more optimal position to exert force against that bar and press the weight overhead. To give you the same setup from a different view, because I know it's tough to see all of the aspects of the hand placement just from the side angle, if I'm setting up with an empty bar or even with a loaded bar, but obviously this one is empty, I'm walking up to the bar, I'm aligning my index fingers with the edge of the knurling. As you can see, I'm using a pronated hand position, going right into this area of the palm. So I'm in a pronated position with my palms facing down towards the floor. My thumbs are angled down towards the floor as well. From this position, I'm going to grip around the bar just like so. From here, as I walk forward, you'll notice my forearms remain in a vertical position. And from here, as I step up to the bar and I unrack it, now you can see that the bar is directly over top of the forearms, and the forearms are vertically aligned. Before we wrap up this quick little tutorial video, it's worth noting that when you do unrack the bar and it's positioned up at the front delts, it's completely normal for the elbows to be positioned slightly in front of the barbell. In fact, one thing that people run into an issue with is they assume that that's a bad thing and they try and tuck their elbows back underneath the bar, which actually forces the barbell slightly forward and off of the front delts. And this becomes an issue because as they press the weight up, they actually end up pressing it out front and overhead instead of up and back overhead. So be aware that that elbow positioning slightly in front of the bar is completely okay and actually further optimal than your elbow being back and underneath the bar itself. It'll lead to a better bar path as you actually start executing the presses. If you've been struggling to set up for the barbell overhead press, I sincerely hope that this video was succinct enough, yet straightforward, that you could take away a better setup process that you can use to further improve your own overhead pressing. Now, if you found this video to be beneficial or informative in any way whatsoever, please, I encourage you to follow or subscribe depending on what social media platform you might be seeing it on. And as per usual, make sure if you have any questions related to training, nutrition, or lifestyle, send them my way, and if I'm able to answer them, you can bet that I will in an upcoming post.